Okay, another week, another podcast episode, another indeterminate amount of time of me just kind of blathering on into this microphone. I thank you for coming to a new episode of Tim's Two Cents and the wonders that are always found within as I mean, if you haven't listened to this before, most of this podcast is me having a mental breakdown as I try to figure out what I want to say. And you kind of more or less just hear my train of thought because it's hard for me to really the problem is when I do this on a show with somebody else is I start to if I can't articulate everything I'm saying at one point in time, then I just forget it, or I can't make the connection, so I have to almost talk through everything. It seems like I also kind of just use this as an excuse to do that because I like to monopolize people's time. I like the idea of, just in general, I like doing stuff where I get you don't have to listen to me. You can tell me to fuck off and not download this, not play it, whatever. But I do appreciate if you have. Please share if it's changed your life. If it's been I guess, yes, if it has changed your life, please do share it because you're the kind of person that I want around who is having their life changed by me saying things. And then I also want you to follow everything else I do and also share that as fanatically. But in general, whatever I'm doing, whether it's doing the podcast, whether it's writing, or whenever I was doing the little bit of open mics that I did, I always liked I don't know if it's as poetic as the act of I'm not sure what I was about to say, the act of creation or something like that. I think it very easily just boils down to I like having attention and stuff like this. Even if I'm not directly corresponding with somebody, I can still have the idea that, well, if somebody downloads it, if they play it, I did at least hold their attention. I had some part of their attention for the period of time they listened to it. Podcasts are a little bit different because half the point of these things is so people can listen to you. I'm sorry, I'm having issues right now. Part of the kind of allure of podcast, not the allure, but the usefulness of podcasts is that you can listen to them while you kind of cut grass. Nobody's really doing that around me right now. It's just cold. Actually, no, today, let me finish that. But you have a podcast so you can, like I said, if you're cutting grass, if you're walking a dog, if you are driving, if you're at work and you're allowed to have earbuds in. But I'll still take that. I'll take whatever amount of attention I can really grab. I'm a pretty dirty whore that way, and that I don't really care that much. Even with my other stuff, even with the open mics, I didn't really care that people weren't listening. I didn't really feel any better if somebody laughed versus if they groaned versus if they got angry at me. Same thing with the proudest I've been of something I've written was I've used it's a subreddit before that I've used for posting stuff up there. You do reviews in exchange for other people doing reviews for you. It's all done by word count. So if you do 1,000 word review of somebody else's story, then you can post up to 1,000 words of your own original content, whatever that was. But the most I ever actually felt good about making something was whenever I put something up and then people are like, this is disgusting. You need to label this as not safe for work. This is violent and it's disturbing. And I was like, ooh, thank you. That's I appreciate that. It wasn't very good, so not everybody else was defending me and be like, this is a work of art. What's the guy who made Midnight Meat Train? Clive Barker. He did a bunch of I guess you would consider body horror type stuff, or just in general, just kind of a darker horror or weird dark fantasy kind of stuff. As long as you're paying attention to me, I don't really care what your reaction is for it. As far as the podcast goes, yes, I would prefer that you constantly hit me up on Twitter and said how smart I was versus going, "You're stupid. Why are you still doing this?" But people don't do either one of those things, so I can't really decide yet either as far as being, I mean, if I'm trying to be completely honest. I didn't really know what I was going to talk about this week. I had something I was about to go off on, then I decided to finish talking something about podcasts. And, oh, yeah, I mean, it wasn't something I was going to go off on, just that it was, where I am in Pittsburgh, it was like, I don't know, like in the teens, low teens. I think it was in the negatives for a couple days. And then now today it's like 60 degrees. So things are kind of going all over the place. My body feels a little bit weird. I'm not really sure what's going on. I just sweat kind of constantly if I go outside when it's 60 now, because I'm used to 15 or whatever. But no, I mean, it's nice at least. You can go out in the sun and you don't have to be completely covered in things. So you actually do get a little bit of whatever that benefit is supposed to be. What did I talk about last week? I mean, I think I did mention this last week, and I've just been talking about like getting back into the swing of creating stuff again. Maybe this is something I should work on as far as just being more accepting and just letting myself use the word, but I don't like the whole like, oh, it's just creative. Like that's what they say about like weed, like especially artists, especially music artists or like visual artists. So, oh, weed makes me creative. It makes me, oh, is that? I wasn't from the last several of your releases and albums. I had no idea that your creativity was a focal point of your art because it doesn't really. I took the fucking half a Xan, 30 minutes till I blah blah blah. I mean, I don't know. I have my issues with certain artists just in general. I'm also a little bit still needled, I would say. Not needled, but like I'm sensitive. The scab that I normally have of my hatred for pop music has been scraped a little bit. It's raw right now from I don't ever end up watching these things really. I end up looking at not that anybody else does either. That was actually a little bit, somebody kept bothering me, like, why are you always looking at your phone? Why aren't you watching the Super Bowl? I'm like, well, one, I don't care. Two, I only had people over my house to watch this so you fuckers would bring food, which they did. Food, beer, salsa I didn't really eat any of it. It was some weird, like, corn and bean salsa. It wasn't that good. And then three, everybody else is looking at their phone too. Like, even if you are supposed to care, and even if you're a big sports fan, these people are still just looking at their phones and not really doing anything, just like going through Twitter. Because now whenever you watch a game, you have to follow the different reporters. You have to follow the guy in your local radio station who does sports tweets. You follow, if it's like a Super Bowl game, like if it's literally two teams, or even if the kind of deeper on postseason games, you're going to have players from the other teams tweeting. So it's like it's a same thing with TV shows. Like, just your phone has kind of just become a part of that. Like it's hard to enjoy that. At least I think. I don't know, again, because I don't really enjoy it regardless. But it seems like for stuff like shows or sports, movies are a little bit different still, because you kind of just, I mean, most people want to go in and just be like, well, what's going to happen? Because it's kind of contained. Sports and shows go on forever and ever with no end in sight. So then you kind of have to have a community that is kind of constantly telling each other how good it is and how it's been so exciting this year. And who knows what happens at the end of this year? Who will they kill off and who will they let win? Which, I mean, I'll go as far as to say, especially with like sports stuff, talking about the Super Bowl, people have like complaints about the Patriots and about them cheating at stuff. It would not surprise me, just in general in sports, if something came out in the next week that all sports are rigs, that referees very blatantly play towards a certain team. Like, it's a money thing, like anything else. and we're not going to have complete fairness here, and we all want to act like, but I was like, oh, it's a fair, it's sportsmanship, it's about glory and courage and all this other bullshit that we say that athletes embody, and this is why we have to praise them and lift them up as gods because they dedicated their lives to playing a game, and that means that they're a good role model for people or something. First off, especially football. At very least football. Every single one of those guys is on some kind of performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not saying, like, when I say steroids, I'm not meaning necessarily the kind of stereotypical thing you think of, just like testosterone, because obviously not all of them are. But you're on something. And I would go, again, I'll go so far because it doesn't really matter what I say. Who's going to come after me and be like, oh, how dare you throw libel around? Because I'm not making any specifics. But in general, if you, like these models, again, sports players, anybody that makes their living with their body is almost guaranteed to be on some kind of performance-enhancing drug, regardless of the legality, because that is your livelihood, is your body. So, again, why wouldn't you just do like that? Like, we're like, oh, well, people will have scruples and they won't give in to the temptation because everybody else is doing it. It's like, everybody else does that. We're like, no, certain people will be like moral about it or something. I don't know. I don't get why people do it. They do the same thing in politics where they're like, oh no, these people would never do anything like that. They would, how dare this one person? That's always the greatest thing in sports or politics, where they drag this one person out for doing the thing that we all know they all do. That, like, every single one of them has either been caught or has been barely missed actually being booked for doing it, whether it's cheating with steroids, cheating with a different person besides your spouse, drugs in general, all these, and then either a politician or an athlete comes out and everybody goes, how dare they do that? Exactly what we thought they all did already, but they did it and got caught, this son of a bitch. And then we all kind of publicly and unanimously punish that person. We shame them on Twitter. A few people go, hey, no, that's not that bad. And we go, you don't understand, because the issue isn't just that they did this, it's that they're setting a bad example for the people that come after them. And what will the children think if they see the people doing this? It's like, oh, that's a good question. Again, going back to, I think, what I said in a couple episodes again, why don't we focus more on what we do around kids and what the kind of actions that we take towards children? Shut up, because how else are we going to get them to listen to us? But again, we do have to worry about what the children think whenever they see the politicians snorting coke off of hookers and the athletes who run away from hitting pregnant women with cars after doing cocaine. And everybody has to go, no, this has to be the person that is going to show my child how to not be a complete piece of shit like I am. Or at least that, I guess, I don't understand what the rationality of it is besides, like, I don't get what the point of having, of getting angry over another role model for your child if it isn't just you completely failing as a parent. Where you're like, how, I raise my child with my television. If he sees you doing this on television, that means he's going to turn to this because I have absolutely no control over what he does, and I can't instill any kind of guidance in him. That would require me to look up a Google how-to menu thing. Not menu, Tim, that was terrible. See, this is why I don't do stand-up, and this is why I don't do any kind of improv, because I just throw out words. I've gotten good enough that I don't just stutter over things, but it's not good. Like, the thing that pops in my head doesn't make sense. It's just I don't stutter. And unless I'm screaming it, nobody else, like, I say it slow enough that people are like, wait, that doesn't make sense. So I still give them time to realize that I'm saying nonsense. Besides that, I don't know. That was a little tirade about kind of professional sports and just kind of pop culture in general. That seems like what a lot of things are. Maybe that's more what I'm angry about than anything, Because it's not like if people actually cared about politics or actually cared about sports in the sense of, yeah, I study the tapes of these people, or, I can more kind of empathize or understand this in regards to something like MMA, where it's like, oh, well, I practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I've sparred sometimes, I like watching fights, I like watching the techniques, I like if somebody's interested in like the ground game in MMA and like watching actual skill involved with that versus I like watching guys smack themselves in the face against other guys with all this plastic on, they got masks. But if you like, even with football, even with hockey, even with something like, if you are actually enjoy it and don't just constantly shout about how much you enjoy it, and then that's how you show, like whatever you want, but I don't really care if you particularly like the sports team of the city you're from, because that's what every single other person there does. And although it's not like, I get that it's not an activity that's looking to be unique normally. But yeah, that was, I'm not even really sure what that tangent was for, but again, this is what you get. I would be more okay with sports stuff if people are like, no, I just really like football, I like watching it, it's enjoyable. I don't need to constantly scream at the television because the other team scored. I don't constantly say the referees are against my team because they throw a penalty whenever I don't think there was one. Same thing with politics. If people actually cared about politics and actually looked at politics and actually didn't just go, oh, you know what? Well, the subreddits I visit and the people I follow on Twitter all tell me that Trump is either bad or good, and both of those have to be in an absolute sense of the word. And, well, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say that I agree with them. And you know what? I'm very adamant about my opinion, even though it's not mine. And I'm also very concerned with how the country is going. Everybody says that. Everybody's always like, I'm very concerned about the direction we're heading in. I'm very, like, there's gonna be a civil war. No, there's not. There's not gonna be a civil war. You fuckers still watch the fucking Super Bowl halftime show. Not, like, until that, like, viewership of that goes down, we're not having a civil war because nobody has the attention span to conduct a civil war. Are you kidding me? We play Fortnite, which, what do the games last? Like 12 minutes, and we think that's long. We have Twitter just constantly. Nobody is organizing something that lasts longer than a week. Well, maybe that's why whenever they started every other, like, world war, they're like, it'll be over by Christmas because nobody can pay attention. And then everybody ends up paying attention because I guess war is the cure for ADHD for autistic people. Because that's, you look at, like, a lot of generals and it's like, this guy was just nuts mostly, but he figured out how to be good at making other people kill people, so we promoted him. But yeah, I don't know. I've just been like, I'm not even angry. I'm actually feeling pretty good. I still need to write a little bit tonight. I'm recording Monday nights. This is the 4th of February. So we're a full month into 2019. It's about 8 o'clock. So I'm probably going to finish this up quickly and then try to get some writing done. So yeah, I've been feeling pretty good because I can kind of just go do that. But if I didn't have that, or if I didn't have, like, the podcast just complain about it, I don't really know what I would do. If I didn't have, like, the gym as a physical outlet for energy, I would probably kill myself just because of having to. And it's not having to. I'm legitimately in a position where I could just go out and I could go live by myself in the middle of the woods and chop wood, and I could probably survive for 2 years before the amount of work I have to do starts to catch up with me. So I could go live with there were no people, but I don't really like that. I like being lazy. I like having easy access to internet and coffee and all that stuff. So I'm still here, so I have to listen to everybody act like their viewership of something is the greatest form of resistance or something towards whatever it is, whether it's they're tweeting out something for Trump, against Trump, for Mueller, against Mueller, for Tom Brady and the Patriots, or for, like, my attention is so important and it'll make a difference. And you know what? I'm more concerned about this than that other thing that also doesn't have anything to do with anything. So I feel superior to you people who are just that. So I don't even know what that meant, because that's probably what annoys me about that's what annoys me about all of this stuff more than anything, is how little sense it makes, and then how much kind of it's not the importance that's put on it. It's just like, well, it makes no sense, but then they treat it like it's you're just fucking Satan for not agreeing. Like, how could you possibly think that this isn't important? What is the matter with you? How dare you? Don't you realize that this is the single most important facet facing the human condition today? I don't know. I'll quit now. I guess just as far as this week, don't get dragged into stuff. Talk to people. I've been trying to do that. Just have a conversation. You're at the store, instead of just staring down and plugging your credit card into a fucking machine and then paying for it that way. And I'm not saying go to an actual manned shopping. Like, God, no, do not do that. Always go to self-service. But if there's someone behind you, say hi to them. Say, this machine's stupid. Isn't this better than talking to a person, though? Ha! Something like that. I don't know. Don't close your off from people. If you start doing that, if you start thinking that everybody around you is crazy and they're just saying all kinds of dumb things, don't do that, because it won't take your headspace into a good place. Just remember, all these people are just trying to get attention out, just like you. They're trying to, whether it is what virtue signal, or try to look like an alpha online, or everybody's just trying to get laid. That's really is most of everything nowadays, where everyone's I want to fuck now. If I tweet this, does that mean it's going to happen? But yeah, I'm clipping the audio on this way pretty bad, so we'll see how well I can fix it. Yeah, go out, have actual conversation with people. It'll make you feel better. Keep doing whatever you're doing. If you're trying to create stuff, don't let the just kind of monotony of it get to you too much. Just kind of keep plugging away at that, and come back next week's, where hopefully I have a little bit more of a concise, kind of figured out what I wanted to say first instead of whatever this episode was. But again, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you just want to yell at me, follow me at bakersdozen93 on Twitter, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.